first property we bought together, we bought in January 2021. It was a duplex, and we turned it was actually a quadplex, which we turned each side into a duplex.
Interesting.
And each side is a 4-bedroom. And we bought it for $46,000, and it needed $60,000, roughly $60,000 worth of rehab.
Wow.
And it refinanced and it appraised for $132,000. So it was a pretty good forced equity play. We're stuck with a little bit in the deal. What we learned from that and the second deal, which was a very, very similar deal, I'm not going to bore you with, it was almost exactly the same, was 1 to 4 units appraised using the sales comp approach.
Right.
They don't really care about the income. So even though these places income cash flowed very well, we still were left with money back in the deal. So my partner doesn't make any money until I've gotten paid back for the first year, he's not going to make very much money.
Right.
At least on those first 2 properties. Our third property is a 6-unit, and that is going to appraise for more than we put into the deal.
Sweet.
So after about 11 months, he's the first 3 properties he'll be 40% owner in, and he's happy and I'm happy.
Cool. So I have a couple follow-up questions for you.
Go ahead.
So let's kind of take it back. So Matthew, how did you end up meeting Matthew? Because you mentioned you were in the middle of a couple property managers you didn't like. You sent in the secret shopper. Where did you find Matthew?
So I had a business partner that we were buying and selling Magic the Gathering cards. So he knew Matthew. They grew up together. And Matthew was living in North Carolina. He just moved back to the area. He had a construction company. He had done some flipping. And so he just introduced us.
Yeah,
and Matthew was a big picture thinker. He wasn't the guy that was saying, how am I going to make my money tomorrow? He did a lot of things which clued me into the fact that he wasn't thinking about tomorrow.
Right.
And Matthew was not in a great financial place. So for those 2 things to come together, it takes a particularly special person.
Definitely.
And the relationship just grew organically. When I met Matthew, I didn't have this goal set out. I was just going to do it myself.
Right.
But we just kept talking on the phone. We just became friendly. I went up and stayed with him and his family, and we looked at properties. That was in July. I know we said we bought in January. That was in July. So I just got to know Matthew over time, and it just formed. I don't really know how to tell you how it happened.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And does Matthew, all right, let me ask you this. The next couple of properties you've bought with him, have those all been in upstate New York as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We chose that area specifically because of the cash flow and because he's from there. And it just makes it easier for him to manage the properties.
Right.
Now that our relationship has grown, and we could touch on this later, we want to recreate this formula that we have. But Matthew's going to end up being the CEO, or I don't know if he's going to be the CEO, but he's definitely going to be part of the franchises that we develop in other areas. And maybe he'll oversee the construction side and I'll oversee the other stuff. But he's going to be involved. And I am trying to look for another partner in a Gary, Indiana, or where did you say you go at? You went Florida State?
UCF, Orlando.
Or UCF, like we're looking in different areas. And that's kind of the next evolution.
So talk about this franchise thing you're mentioning. Yeah, go ahead.
I call it a franchise. And essentially, Matthew, instead of in most franchises, you have to buy in. Matthew is buying in with his sweat equity, but essentially Matthew is running the Upstate New York franchise. So I'm not going to bring somebody in to run Buffalo or Syracuse. As we expand, Matthew will expand in that because he's within an area that he can control that.
Right.
But I'm looking for somebody in another area. This model works. Model works for both partners. I specifically set the number at 40% because when my partner, Matthew, or my next partner, gets enough of his own capital, he's not going to leave me. I made the deal very fair. I could have made it 25% and squeezed every penny out of him. Right. And I think most people, especially if they don't have a ton of capital themselves, would take that deal. But once they get their own capital, they're just going to leave because
Right.
they would rather just make 100%.
Right.
But Matthew won't, because he realizes that I was particularly fair. So we're looking for the next franchisee starting Q1 of 2022.
Got it. So, and then that franchisee is basically boots on the ground
Yeah.
and kind of fulfilling the same duties as Matt is, but in a different market.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And they need to fill in my weaknesses, which is construction. I can't look at drywall and tell you that it's done well, or framing or anything
Yeah.
like that. My wife can, Matthew can, but I can't. And they have to be hungry. You know, we're looking to put up a few hundred units in the next couple of years, rehab a few hundred units. I want somebody that wants a few hundred units, not wants 10 units and then retire with, you know, which is totally cool. If you want to make a few thousand a month and just chill, like, nothing wrong with that. But I want a massive empire.
Right, right. So let's take it back a little bit. Finding these properties. Obviously, the market's super hot right now. People have all these different off-market lead generation strategies. Some people go on Zillow, the MLS. What do you guys specifically do to find these deals?
The first two deals were off of the MLS. The next two deals were off of off-market. One was just a result of Matthew being in the market and people seeing him and knowing him. And one was an agent that worked with us that brought us the deal before it went on the MLS.
Got it.
Which there's something to be said about doing stuff like that.
Right.
Is just being involved day to day. It's just, you start to get a little bit of a name, a little bit of recognition. So, which was nice. We are going to formulate a more off-market strategy. But right now we have, you know, both the third and fourth property are, we won't finish the fourth property till November. So I won't be really looking until September, October for the next property.
Got it. Okay. Got it. And then I guess so I guess until you said January 2022, you're strictly focused on New York. And then after that, you're, you know, willing to look at other markets.
Yeah. I mean, I made a rule in my head. I said, once we get through 3 properties and we have refinanced and we've gotten the rents that we anticipated, 1 is luck, 2 is a pattern, 3 is a proof of concept. So, and I just made the number of, once we get to the 4th, then I will look through other markets. But this was kind of contingent on a few things. One is I was able to establish a larger credit line with a bank, which I was. And because I want to be able to grow New York this way, but I want to go ride with other markets. So I will start the same in another market, which is we go find a tertiary-ish market where the rents per the price of the home rent really, really well. But the price of the home isn't that expensive. So I'll go buy a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex in that market, test out my partner. Then maybe we'll do the same thing with the second one. And then the third one will go 5 units or bigger.
Right.
And the reason we're doing that is I don't want to take all of my bankroll or a large portion that's going to New York and dedicate it towards the other market yet.
Right.
Let that market grow.
Right. No, that makes sense. And so for these other markets, I'm just curious, do you have a game plan of how you're going to find your partners, or is it kind of just like I'm guessing it's not like a job application because it's, you know, but I guess what's the strategy for finding these other partners?
Well, I'm going to Jake. Do you know Jake and Gino?
Yeah, I'm going too in October.
Okay, I'm going to Orlando in October. I'm probably, we'll definitely talk about that after this ends. And then I'm going to the API convention in November, with the goal of just talking and meeting as many people, because this really, I can do it by job application, and I will, if I can't meet somebody on my own. So at some point I will interview people if I have to, but right now I'm just looking to meet somebody or meet someone in the way that I've met somebody, just through somebody. I'm sorry, did that answer your question? Yeah,
no, perfect. And then as far as the actual strategy with these units, so there's Airbnb, there's long-term rentals. What's your preferred strategy? There's Section 8. I know you kind of mentioned that before. What's the overall strategy, or does it kind of depend on the market?
It depends on the market. For the New York market, we decided on Section 8. That was the original plan because New York's in the middle of a moratorium. So
Right.
we didn't want to deal with, evictions. What ended up happening is, we got, our 4-bedroom, for example.
Thanks for watching that clip from the Real Estate Investing Made Simple podcast. If you want to see the entire interview, go ahead and click the link in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to stay tuned for all future episodes.